Hello and welcome to Grognard Solo Gaming. I am the Grognard and today we are continuing with Curse of Strahd. The last session ended with the whole party going towards Wachthouse in the middle of the night in order to deal with the heretics. However, there is one thing that I feel needs to be addressed first, and that would be the vampire spawn that were hidden in the coffin maker's house, because they would have woken up when the sun went down. And what happened at that point? Well, the adventure actually doesn't say. The information that you get is simply that if the party, the players, if they return the bones, then this attack on the church event, it is dismantled, it disappears, and it never happens. But it doesn't say what happens with the vampire spawn if the party or the players manage to return the bones. So the way I see it, they would have woken up, they would have gone downstairs, and in my imagination, they would have smelled the blood from the stabbed Hernick van der Voort in the coffin. However, neither vampires nor vampire spawn really have any special senses in order to smell blood that way. So according to the rules, that is not what would have happened unless he had perhaps bled so much that blood was coming out of the coffin. But because I need to make sense of why basically nothing happens, I'm going to say that they dumped his body in a luxury coffin with a lot of padding inside, and the padding has soaked up the blood, and perhaps he uses some kind of varnish or other things that has a strong smell. So the vampire spawns, they do not find him, and then they go to investigate if the bones are still in the secret compartment. And when the bones are not there, well, the question is, what do they do at that point? They probably assume that Hernick van der Voort has taken the bones and fled, but I also think it is quite likely that they would visit the church to see if he has returned the bones to the priest, to the church. However, they are not very smart. They have an intelligence of 11, so I'm going to roll an intelligence roll with a DC. Well, it's just going to be DC 6. It's highly likely that they go to check the church, but I'm going to roll. So let's see. A 6, exactly. Well, that means that the vampire spawn, though their first thought is that Hernick van der Voort has run away with the bones, they think of the idea to go check the church. And when they check the church, they are going to realize that the bones are back in the church, because when the bones are there, the entire church functions as if though it is protected by a hallow spell. And here we have the hallow spell, and some of the effects of this spell include that undead are unable to enter the area, so the vampire spawns are going to feel that they cannot enter the church. So at that point, the 6 vampire spawns, they are going to very reluctantly start walking towards Castle Ravenloft in order to report to Strahd what has happened, and well, it is not unlikely that they are going to suffer some kind of punishment for this failure of theirs. So that is what happens with the vampire spawns, and this they would have awakened before the party finished their long rest and set out towards Wachthouse. So that means that as the party is moving towards the house, the vampire spawns, they are no longer in Vallaki, but they are on their way to Castle Ravenloft. And after the long rest, Ireena became a level 2 warlock, so level 1 sorcerer and level 2 warlock, and that means she gains one more spell slot, level 1, for her new warlock level, and it also means that she gets these interesting things known as Eldritch Invocations, and she is going to pick the one that is called Agonizing Blast. That is going to add extra damage to her Eldritch Blast cantrip. And then she is going to pick another one when she reaches level 4, because it requires that she has her Pact Boon, and she does not get that until she is a level 3 warlock. All right, so looking at the map, the party, they start out in the church, and then they are going to make their way up here to Wachthouse. And what they are going to do is that they are going to go sort of behind these houses here, to stay out of sight as much as possible, and then they are going to gather somewhere here on the other side of the street, and then they are going to send Janosch across the street in order to investigate the door and see if he, well, it's highly likely that he needs to pick the lock, and then he needs to do that as quietly as possible. And also there are probably some kind of patrols moving around in the town at night, so I'm going to check for those as well. And I think last time I said that Ireena had 21 hit points, and that is not entirely true, because she would have 21 hit points, but she's still weakened, so her maximum is 75% of that, so she has 15 hit points currently and 1 level of exhaustion, but she is well enough that she can travel with the party and she can be a part of this attack on Wachtelhaus. And of course, this session, if she takes a long rest, then after that rest, she is going to be level 4, just like the others, and she's not going to have any exhaustion, and she's going to be at full hit points. Okay, so here we have a Wachtelhaus, and here is the map, and I guess I'm going to take some pictures here so that I can create an overlay so it's easier for you to follow along. And well, there is quite a lot of text here, so I am going to read that. To be honest, like I said earlier, I have run this adventure, but I don't think my players went inside Wachtelhaus, so I really don't know much or almost anything about the details here. So I'm going to look through this information here, and then we are going to get started. All right, yeah, I decided that this was too much to read. I don't have the energy for that. So I am going to do what I usually do when I'm playing something like this, and that is I'm just going to get started, and if there is some weirdness, well, then there is some weirdness, and I'm going to deal with it. So, but what I'm going to do before I get started on the house is I'm going to see if there were any guards, any patrol on the way. So if, and I'm going to do it as if though it was a random monster check in the OSE campaign, meaning if I roll a 1 on this d6, then the party ends up so close to a patrol that they are in danger of being found. So let's see, on a 1, a 3, okay, so that means that they managed to stay away from the patrols. Probably there aren't very many patrols in this small town at night, so I don't think doing that is very difficult, to be honest. But then they are going to, everyone is going to gather on the other side of the road, and then Janosch is going to go over to the other side, and, well, he's going to try to get in through the back door. So let us see, that would be E. Back vestibule. The back door is locked and similar to the front door area in every respect. The vestibule has plain wooden doors leading to areas so and so and so and so. Okay. Well, the front door is locked and reinforced with bronze bands. All of the servants carry a key, as do Lady Wachter and Ernst Leinak. The door can be forced open with a successful DC 20 strength check. If the characters knock, well, they're not going to knock. That is very strange. It does not have a DC for picking the lock. And either that can be interpreted as though it is impossible to pick this lock, but I find that, I feel, by my logic, if they wanted that to be completely impossible, then they would have had to say so. So what I'm going to do, as the almighty dungeon master of my own campaign, I'm going to say that it can be picked with the same DC that you would use in order to knock the door down. So that means it's a DC 20 lockpick proficiency check for Janosch. And he has a +5 to the roll, so that means that he needs to roll a 15 or higher. So 15 or higher, fingers crossed. 15! Well, that was pretty great. That means Janosch opens the door, so let's see what he finds. All right, A, let's see. No, E, because it was just that the doors were exactly alike. Let's see. Back vestibule. The back door is locked and similar to the front door. Well, right, we ran on that. The vestibule has plain wooden doors leading to 3 areas. So let's see. Okay. Well, the first thing that is going to happen is that Janosch is going to motion for Seraphine, who can see in the dark, for the party to move across the street and then to join him here. And then everyone is going to pile up inside this small room labeled E, and then they are going to close the door as quietly as possible. So let us see. H, F, and D. Well, this is one of those situations where all the doors are alike. The party, they don't have any information that would sort of guide them. So I am going to say that they are going to listen. Janosch is going to listen at all the doors, And I'm going to read the information about these 3 rooms, and that way I'm going to find out if there is anything to be heard from the other side of any of the doors. All right, having looked at the contents of these 3 rooms, it is possible that there is someone snoring in room H, because there are 4 servants sleeping in there. So what are the odds that someone is snoring? Well, out of 4 people, I think it's kind of likely. So I'm just going to go with the good old coin. Is someone snoring loudly enough that Janosch is able to hear? Yes. So then, well, I'm still going to roll a perception check, I suppose. Let's say DC 10. A15, and he has a +5, so that was no problem. He can hear the snoring, and let's see. Well, there is no information about these doors being locked or difficult in any way, so that means that Janosch is going to quietly sneak inside, and since they are sleeping, I would say it's just a DC 10 stealth roll in order to move quietly and not disturb them. So let's see, he has a +7 to this roll. And that would an 11 + 7, that's 18. So he is completely silent. And one by one, he's going to cover their mouth and slit their throats. And he is quickly going to kill all 4 people in this room. All 4 servants are commoners, and that means they have 4 hit points and they have an AC of 10. So there is no chance of them surviving the sneak attack that Janosch delivers. Party, let's see what they find. The furnishing in this room are bereft of imagination. 4 simple beds with equally austere wooden chests. Ladywachters, 4 servants, blah blah, sleep here at night. They include someone and someone and someone and someone, whose names we are never going to know. The servants, well, no, okay. So it does not say if the chests contain anything, so I'm just going to assume that they don't. And let's return to the map. Well, let us say that the next door that they are going to check is the one to the south. Just going to double check. Yes, south. So then they enter room F. Servants' closet. Servants' coats and aprons hang from hooks in this room, and boots are neatly lined up against the wall. Anyone who searches the closet and makes a successful DC 10 Wisdom Perception check finds a secret door in the south wall. The door can be pulled open to reveal a stone staircase area, so-and-so, that leads to the cellar. Well, at this point, no one has any real reason to look for a hidden door in this room, so they are not going to do that. They are simply going to have a quick look. And at this point, they are not using any light, so it's probably totally dark, more or less. And that means that Seraphine is the one that is going to look around. And also Ireena can look around, but she needs to hide the fact that she can see in the dark at this point. So, but I mean, she is looking around, but she is trying to be stealthy about it so that Friedrich, Janosch, Gottlieb, and Gottfried do not realize that she has dark vision. So that leaves only the door to the east, and that means that they are going to enter room D. Storage room. This room holds crates of old clothing, as well as 3 barrels of drinking water, 2 empty wine barrels and 1 full wine barrel. The wine barrels are emblazoned with the winery name, the Wizard of Wines, and the wine's name, Red Dragon Crush. And then there is only one door, and that door leads to the south. So they are going to very carefully look around. I think above all they want, because when they went to the coffin maker's house, they were informed that the vampires spawn, that they were hiding in boxes full of dirt, well, earth. And so, because they also know that Fiona Wachter, that she is an ally of Strahd, so they are going to take a little bit of time just to make sure that these crates do not contain vampire spawns. So, well, I'm not going to roll anything because there is no need for that. And I think now everyone is going to move slowly and quietly into room D, the storage room, and then all the doors are closed. And the people that are wearing somewhat heavy armor, Friedrich, Gottlieb, and Gottfried, they are more or less just going to stand still near the door so that they don't make noise. And then Janosch, Seraphine, and Ireena, who are not wearing heavy armor, well, Janosch is wearing a breastplate, but that does not affect his stealth. They are the ones to move around in the rooms and check things out. So, having made sure that there are no vampire spawns in the crates, they are going to move to the door to the south. And going through that door, they are going to reach room C. The house cook rushes about this spotless kitchen most of the day, preparing meals or cleaning up after himself. A wash basin stands in the northeast corner. A slender door in the west wall leads to a small pantry. Well, because the party is here in the middle of the night, of course the cook is not in the kitchen, and in fact Seraphine would have noticed that there were some bloody aprons and things by one of the beds, so they are going to draw the conclusion that Janosch has in fact murdered the cook in his sleep already. Alright, so the small pantry is sort of part of this room, even though there is a door. Well, so let's just say that is the first door that they open, and they find the small pantry, and, well, they're not really going to investigate the kitchen, and they're not going to investigate the pantry either, but they are just going to move on, and that means that they are going to take the door to the west that leads to B. The staircase. A wooden staircase leads up to a balcony. At the foot of the stairs is a landing with 3 stained glass doors in wooden frames. The staircase climbs 15 feet to the upstairs hall. But then there is a door right opposite to the one that they enter through as they enter the staircase. So in a good adventurer fashion, they are going to clear the ground floor before they move up. So that means that they are going to, well, right, then there is the door to the south as well, and they are going to figure from how far inside the house they have gotten that they are close to the front entrance. So they're going to start with the door to the south, and they're going to enter room A. Front door and vestibule. Right, and here is the information about that door. The front door opens into a narrow vestibule. 3 stained glass doors in wooden frames lead from it. 2 closets flank the front door. The western closet contains Lady Wachter's outdoor clothes. The eastern one contains coats and boots that belong to her children. And her children are grown-ups. I think Janosch might feel through a few pockets of these clothes, just in case there might be some kind of an interesting clue of some sort, but he finds nothing, and he does not spend a lot of time, just a few seconds, doing that. So then the party, they are going to move on and go back to the staircase, and then they're going to open the door to the west, and that means they are entering the room J. Dining room. An ornate dining table stretches the length of this room, a crystal chandelier hanging above it imperiously. The silverware is tarnished, the dishes chipped, yet all are still quite elegant. 8 chairs, their backs adorned with sculpted elk horns, surround the table. Arched windows made of a lattice work of iron and glass look out onto the small, fog-swept estate. Well, at this hour, that is not going to be visible because it is completely dark outside. Okay, and then the northern part of this large room is the letter I, and let's see what that says. Parlor. Here, 3 elegant couches surround an oval table made of black glass. All are set in front of a blazing hearth, above which hangs the portrait of a smirking nobleman, sporting a broken nose and a tangle of hair graying at the temples. Several smaller portraits hang on the northern wall. The portrait above the mantel depicts Lord Nikolai Wachter, Fiona's late husband. The other portraits depict Lady Wachter, her sons, her daughter, and various deceased family members. Alright, so that means that the only thing that is left on this floor is the door in this room that leads to room K, and that is where Janosch is going to go next, followed by the rest of the party. So let's see what K says. Den. Wood paneling, embroidered rugs, colorful furnishings, and a blazing fire make this chamber stifling. Mounted above the mantel is an elk's head. Across from the hearth, tall, slender windows look out over dead gardens. Right, and at this hour, of course, there is no blazing fire, but instead the room is dark and quiet. So then it says, Ernst Leinack, Lady Wachter's spy, lounges here when he's not out spying on her behalf. Well, does that mean that he is currently here? Well, I'm just going to say that he is, because he is not currently out spying, and that means that he is most likely sleeping on one of the sofas in here. So Janosch is going to signal for the others to be still and quiet, and he is going to attempt to sneak inside and kill Ernst Leinack as well in his sleep. However, I am going to say that because he is not just a commoner, but uses the spy stat block, Janosch is going to have to roll a stealth roll against his passive perception would be if he would be awake, and he isn't, so I guess Janosch should get some... Well, I'm going to give him advantage. So it is a DC 16 stealth roll, and that means Janosch needs to roll a 9 or higher on one of these. And a 16 and a 6. Well, 16 will do it. Attacking a sleeping target grants Janosch advantage on the attack, and because Einslainak is sleeping, if he hits, it is an automatic crit. So let us see. Well, actually, what is his AC? Well, it would be 10, because he does not get any dexterity bonus while he is sleeping. So let's see. A 4 and a 15. A 15 will hit, so... And because that is an automatic crit, it comes to 6d6 plus 3. Oh my, this looks like a lot. 13, 17, 22, 27, 30 points of damage. That is actually enough to kill. Yes, that kills Einslainak outright, because he has 27 hit points. Well done, Janosch. So they are going to search Einslainak's body quickly, and they are going to find the key to the house. Well, actually, they would already have found keys, because it said somewhere else that all the servants, the servants all had keys. Well, never mind then. At this point, the party, they have several keys to this house. Then there is also some treasure. The room contains several items of value, including a golden goblet from which Einst drinks wine, a crystal wine decanter, 4 electrum candelabras, and a bronze urn with frolicking children painted on its sides. Well, these are all things that are standing out in the open, and so Janosch is going to be able to see them, and he is going to be able to realize that they are valuable, so he's just quickly and quietly going to put those things in a sack, and then they are going to move on. And now they have been through all of the rooms on the ground floor, so they are going to go to the stairs, and they are going to go up the stairs. And they are going to do it the same way that they have been doing it, meaning that Janosch is going to go first. He's going to sneak up the stairs, and then the rest of the party, they're going to wait down on the ground floor until he signals to Seraphine that it is clear for them to come upstairs. So he reaches area L. Let's see what that says. Upstairs hall. A hallway with a window at each end wraps around the staircase railing. Framed portraits and mirrors festoon the walls, surrounding you with judging looks and dark reflections. So there are 5 doors and one set of double doors. And since Janosch is unable to hear anything, he is going to motion for the rest of the party to come upstairs quietly and slowly, and they're going to go one at a time. Then Janosch is going to try the first door to the east, the one that is closest to the stairs, and that is going to lead him to room M. Brothers' rooms. This bedroom contains nothing out of the ordinary. A neatly made bed, a table with an oil lamp on it, a handsome wooden chest, a slender wardrobe, and a window box with drapes. Right, so there are 2 rooms labeled M, and that is why the description says these 2 rooms belong to Lady Wachter's sons. And then their names. There's a 25% chance that one of the maids is here tidying up. Well, in the middle of the night, no, I don't think so. And, well, also, there is a 100% chance that the maid is already dead, so never mind. Alright, so I was a little bit curious, because it does not say anything about the sons, where they are. And, well, now the thing is, because then there is information about her sons, under the general description of Wachter House. And what it says is that they are home most nights, passed out in their beds after hours of heavy drinking. But that is not actually the case in my version of the adventure. However, they might be passed out from exhaustion because they have been out exploring in the mists. For anyone who watched the series The Tales from Barovia, I had an episode where a lost monk, he was called an exorcist, from the Church of Sathramelin, from Friedrich's unit of troops. And he, at the end of that episode, he came across 2 strangers that were from Vallaki. And those, I don't know if they gave their names, but they would have been Fiona Wachter's sons, Nikolai and Karl. So I am going to give Janosch the same roll, stealth with advantage, though the brothers, they are not, well, they don't use the spy stat block. They would use the same one as their mother, and that would give them a passive perception of 13, and because they are asleep, Janosch gets advantage on this roll as well. So let's see. Well, a 19 and a 9. So 19 is more than good enough. And I just realized that in my version of this adventure, it is actually not true that they are drunkards, but it is also true that they are actually not alone in their rooms. So things are actually about to go sideways quite badly for Janosch and potentially the whole party here, because in the room, it doesn't matter which of the brothers is in the room, there is also going to be a small invisible creature that Janosch has no ability to see. And that creature also has sort of a telepathic bond to the brother. And that means that the brother is not only going to awaken, but he is going to be fully aware that Janosch has entered the room because the creature is able to tell him telepathically. And that means that we have quite a different and perhaps also complicated situation, because now I have to find out who is around in the house and who is going to wake up as this happens. Okay, so there is one person, a Lady Wachter. She's sleeping in the room marked O. Then the other brother, well, there's one brother in the M room to the northeast, and then there is one brother in the room M to the southwest. And then also there is their sister, and she is in room N. So what I am going to have to do is that I am going to have to roll the initiatives for everyone involved, and that means that, well, it is possible that not everyone wakes up on the first turn, but if they do, then that would count as a surprise round for the people waking up. But let's just say it's Nikolai. Nikolai is in the room that Janosch has just entered. So Nikolai is not surprised. Okay, so I am going to make the rolls, and then I will let you know the initiative order. Oh, this is good. Okay, so I am going to put the initiative order on the screen now. And then, well, because of the surprise and all these things, it's going to get a little bit confusing. And I know some of you are going to be like, why on earth would you roll separate initiatives for everyone? Why don't you just do something like taking turns? And the thing is, this is how I like to play. And this is how I always run combat. I will roll separate initiatives for every single individual zombie, because it's just how I like to play. And generally, there is no one watching me play, so it doesn't matter. But I'm going to try to find some sort of a middle road here, so that this does not become an episode that drags on for 3 hours. So we're going to see exactly how this is going to play out. But, well, I'm going to do it my way. The first person that gets to act first in the initiative order, that would be Gottlieb. But the thing is, when it is his turn, things have not gone sideways yet. The second person to act is Janosch. And all he knows is, well, the conclusion that he's going to draw is that the person in the bed wasn't really asleep. So, and that is why this person has just sat up and is now looking straight at him. So Janosch is going to switch weapons, and he's going to instead use his short bow. He's going to put his sword down, he's going to draw the bow, and he's going to fire an arrow at this person in the bed. And Janosch is going to use a steady aim to give himself advantage, and he is going to use a sharpshooter for a minus 500 plus 10 to damage. And with a 15, that is an easy hit. So because of steady aim, he gets a sneak attack damage, and that comes to 3d6 plus 13 points of damage, and this was a really good roll as well. So that's 23, that's 27, again, 27 points of damage, and he one-shots this poor man in the bed, but he is still unaware of the invisible creature that is in that room. But that means that Nikolai is dead. The third person, creature to act is going to be in room N, which is the Fiona's daughter, and there is an invisible creature in there as well, and these creatures, they do not sleep. However, at this point, there hasn't really been that much loud noise, actually, because Nikolai was instantly killed. I am actually not, the door is closed, and There are servants and others living in this house, so I don't think the creature is not very intelligent. So it is actually not going to react. So then it is Gottfried's turn, but he has no reason to do anything in particular right now. Then it is Ireena's turn, and she is going to move up to look into the room to see if she needs to assist Janosch in any way, but she's going to see that there is because she has dark vision, she is going to perfectly see that there is a man dead in his bed with an arrow in his throat, but she's not going to be able to see the invisible creature. So then it is Seraphine's turn, and she's going to do basically the same thing. Then it is another invisible creature in the other room marked M, and I'm going to say it's the same situation there. Then it is Fiona's turn. Well, it is highly likely that she is simply asleep, but I mean, she might have stayed up late, she might have woken up for some other reason, but I'm going to say it's just on a 1 on this d6, then she was awake, and if she was awake, then I will roll for her perception to see if she heard the arrow get fired. So let's see. A 2. No. So she is asleep, and that means she does nothing at this point, and then it would have been Nikolai's turn, but he is dead. And then it is Carl's turn, the other brother, and he would also be exhausted, so he's definitely asleep. And then it would be... Now it is turn for the invisible creature in Nikolai's room. And it has a movement of 40, so it is going to dash, and it is going to skitter out of the room through the corridor and up to Fiona's door. And it is small, and it is also able to climb on the walls, so it is not going to be stopped by the party members standing in the hallway. And it's going to reach the door, it's going to open the door to the room marked O, that is Fiona's room, and it's going to enter, and then it is going to communicate with the invisible creature in that room, the one that is connected to Fiona, and then that creature is going to wake Fiona up. Yes, and that works quite perfectly because Fiona's creature was next in line to act. And then it is Friedrich, but he is completely unaware of this invisible creature. Well, they would have seen the door open mysteriously. Right, so that would probably mean that the party is very much focused on that door right now. Well, Friedrich is going to hold his action, and he is going to cast a spell. If someone comes out that door, he's going to cast a spell at that person. And well, he needs to specify, so I'm thinking he's not going to pick Toll the Dead. He's going to choose his fire cantrip instead, because Toll the Dead makes much more noise. And then the last person, well, the party doesn't know her name, but her name is Stella, and she is the daughter of Fiona and the sister of Nikolai and Carl. And then it is her turn, and well, I'm actually not going to give her the roll to see if she was randomly awake. I simply gave that to Fiona because she is the sort of boss in this situation. All right, so that means it is round number 2. And then we are back to Gottlieb, and he is going to, well, he's not going to hesitate. He's going to go straight into the room where the door opened, and when he does, he's going to see Fiona sitting up on the bed, and he is simply going to attack her with his glaive. And he is going to use Great Weapon Master, and he is also going to use Pole Arm Master in order to make a second attack. And he is going to attack with the sharp end first, and he's going to use Great Weapon Master, and then he's going to attack with the blunt end and use Great Weapon Master again, and if he hits, he is going to smite. So let us see, a sharp end, 11, that would be a hit, and then a blunt end, and a 5, that would be a miss. Okay. So 1d10, 2d8 plus 13 points of damage, and that was a low roll, unfortunately. That would be 20 points of damage, leaving Fiona Wachter with 7 hit points remaining. So Janosch is simply going to pivot and turn towards the doors to the west that have not opened yet, and he's going to aim with his bow, and in case someone comes out, he's going to shoot them. Well, at this point, because now it is Stella's invisible creature, and now there are heavy paladins clomping about in the hallway, so it is going to get agitated, and it is going to wake her up. I wonder, however, if Fiona, if she... it's a bit morbid, but does she scream? Because I feel like if you suffer 20 points of damage, you wake up, you sit up in bed, then you're hit with a glaive for 20 points of damage. I think it's more likely you have the wind knocked out of you. So I am going to say that no. And then it is Gottfried's turn, and he is going to do exactly the same thing that Gottlieb did. And so he is going to start with the sharp end. A16 would hit, and well, that means it is completely over for Fiona Wachter. Gottfried rushes into the room and completely beheads her with one big swing of his glaive. So then it is Ireena's turn, and well, I don't know. Well, let's say she probably has a dagger, so let's say she brings out her dagger and she's ready to throw it in case someone opens a door. Seraphine, she is going to hold an action and she is going to cast a, well, let's say a magic, well, she could cast, well, let's say magic missile, because then she's not going to miss. And then it is the invisible creature that is connected to Carl. And the same thing is going to happen there, that the creature is going to wake him up. Then would have been a Fiona, but she's dead, and then would have been Nikolai, he's dead. Then it is Carl, and he has been awakened by his creature. And, well, because all that the creature is able to tell him is that there are suspicious sounds in the hallway. So he is going to creep up to his door, and he's going to listen. Then it is the invisible creature that belonged to Nikolai, and it is currently in the room where Fiona has been killed. So it is going to attack one of the paladins from behind. And because they don't have the same AC, it matters who it is going to attack. So I'm using the coin. Is it attacking Gottlieb? Yes, and that is better because he has a magical item that gives him a bonus to his AC. AC 17, and the creature has a +5. 17, that would hit. D4 plus 3 points of damage, 5. And a DC 11 Constitution saving throw, 19. That was lucky. But he still suffers half, so 3d6, oh my, what a roll. 16 divided by 2, so 8 points of poison damage for Gottlieb as well. So now, well, at least the paladins are aware that there are invisible enemies about. And then it is Fiona's creature, and it is going to, well, I'm going to ask the same question. Is it going to attack Gottlieb? No. So that means it is going to attack Gottfried. AC 16 with a +5, and a 16 is going to hit. 4 points of damage from the bite. Con save, DC 11, 19. That is going to do it. However, still half damage. Come on, low. Oh, well, 13. Well, so 6 points of damage, or maybe round up in this game. Well, let's say 7 points of poison damage. That brings the total to 11. So then it is Friedrich's turn, and what might he do? Well, Friedrich is going to cast Bless, and he's going to cast Bless on Janosch, Gottlieb, and Gottfried, and then he is going to use his Order Domain Cleric ability that lets one of the targets of the spell make a bonus attack, and he is going to let Gottlieb make that attack. So it is a disadvantage because of the creature being invisible, and because of that he's not going to use Great Weapon Master, but he is going to be allowed to add a d4 because of Bless, and if he hits, he's going to smite. So let's see. A 7 plus 5 plus a 2, that would be a 14. Let's see what the AC is. 13, so that would be a hit. 1d10, 3d8 plus 3, because this is a demonic creature, and that was not a very good roll, unfortunately. That would be 15 points of damage. Let's see how many hit points these things have. Oh, well, they have 10 hit points, so that means that he cuts this thing in half. And that would have been the creature connected to Nikolai, because that was the one that was attacking Gottlieb. And at this point, the creature becomes visible, but, well, the paladins don't really have the time to look at it right now, but I am going to tell you what it looks like when the fight is done. And then it is Stella's turn, and at this point, there has been quite a lot of noise. She doesn't really know what's going on, so I am going to flip the coin, and I'm going to ask, does she open the door? Because for all she knows, there is a fight, but one where she needs to help her family. So let's see, is Stella going to open the door? No, she's not. Okay, so then she moves up to the door and she attempts to look out through the keyhole or under the door, and she listens and she tries to get some sort of an understanding of what is going on. So then we are back to Gottlieb, and he is going to attack the other invisible creature. All right, I have forgotten to remove these. Gottlieb used Smite on Lady Wachter, and he also used Smite on the creature, so that would be 2 spell slots for him. And Gottfried, even though he didn't need to, I'm pretty sure he did Smite because he did the same thing. So, well, I'm gonna say that he did. And then Friedrich has cast Bless, which is a level 1 spell. So now I think the spell slots are in order. And then Gottlieb is going to attack the second invisible creature in the room with a disadvantage because it is invisible, but he has a Bless. So because of disadvantage, he's not going to use Great Weapon Master, but he's going to smite if he hits. A 9 and a 16, so a 9 plus a 4 plus a 5, that is a hit, absolutely no problem. And it is the same damage again, and well, that one was, I'm going to reroll that. And well, they have 10 hit points, so 7, 12, 16. He cuts this one in half as well, while the holy flames of Sathramelin burn and make the room smell like some kind of diabolical barbecue. So now it is Janosch's turn, and well, what he realizes is that at this point there is a risk that there are more people here, but that they are not going to engage in combat, but instead they're going to try to escape. So he is going to go, let's see, he is going to kick open, he's going to move across the hallway, and he's going to kick open the doors to room P. And I'm just going to check very quickly what that is. It's most probably not going to matter in the middle of combat, but let us see. Library. The double doors to this room are locked. Right, okay, Lady Wachter and her servants carry keys. Well, I mean, Janosch has a key, but then the question is, let's just have, well, I think it's fairly easy. It's an indoor door. Let's say a DC 12. Ha, 12. And he does not have a plus or a minus, so that means he succeeds. And he kicks open the door to the library, and he's ready to shoot. But I think there are only cats in there. Yes, there are 8 cats. So, well, he's not going to shoot a cat for no particular reason. So that was a Janosch. And then we are moving on to Stella's invisible creature. And unfortunately, I have run out of time right in the middle of combat. And I apologize for that, but we are going to have to pick this fight up the next time that I can play this game. So with that, I thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.